forum for the candidates for the contested races of the Batavia Park District and the Batavia School Board. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am the Voter Service Chair for the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. I indicated that the forum tonight is for those in contested races. The candidates running for Batavia Library Board and Batavia City Council are not in contested races. There are 7 people running for 7 slots in City Council and 3 people running for 3 slots for the Batavia Library Board. They're gonna win, you think? Yeah. It's noted that the League of Women Voters has an empty chair policy, which prohibits a candidate from participating in our forum if their opponent is not present. In Batavia, y'all showed up, so this is awesome. I will tell you that the other 3 races that we're doing we're not quite so lucky. Today's forum is being live streamed and filmed by Audrey over here. Wave Audrey from BATV, and the tape will be posted on the websites of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, BATV, and the Illinois Voter Guide. And I will say that we also sent in the email addresses for all of those candidates running for City Council in Batavia as well, even though they're not in contested races, so that they can answer questions and have their answers placed on the Illinois Voter Guide. The moderator for tonight's forum is Barb Lymans, who is my dear friend and Voter Service Chair from the Wheaton League of Women Voters. The League has a policy of not having a moderator moderate in a place where they vote. So I vote in Batavia, so I'm not moderating. So I'd like to introduce Barb Lymans.
Excuse my back, but I'll talk to the candidates so they know what's going to be happening, okay? My name is Barb Lymans, as Patty said, and I'm going to be serving as your moderator tonight. I'm a member of the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago. Therefore, I'm not eligible to vote for any of you in the upcoming election. As you all know, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not endorse candidates. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to the voters through forums. It continues to be the policy for the League to hold forums for candidates in contested races. And tonight, we welcome the candidates for the Batavia Park District: Charles Kane, Samantha Sambell, and Julie Larson. So let's begin by reviewing some of the League ground rules for candidate forums. All of you candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specified the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. And I'll be responsible for enforcing these rules. As a former school teacher, I have no problem doing that. So. The forum tonight is a candidate forum and not a debate. You candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and your responses reflect your own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is a responsibility of you, the public, the news media, opposing candidates, to fact-check statements made by candidates if necessary. You candidates will begin in alphabetical order with a 1.5-minute opening statement. You will then alternate an order in which you answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, you will each be given a 1-minute closing statement. These questions have been gathered in advance from the public as well as those in the audience tonight. A panel of experienced League members have reviewed the questions submitted and carefully screened questions for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplication for tonight's event. And finally, we do want to emphasize how grateful we are for you attending tonight and being willing to serve in public office in Batavia. So this is a good time to remind our audience to please turn off your cell phones or mute them so that we're not disturbed by any sounds that may be coming across or weird ringtones. So let's begin with opening statements. And the first candidate is candidate Kane.
Hi, everybody. My name is Charles Kane. I've lived in Batavia for a few years, but just recently my partner and I purchased a house here where we live with her stepson, who's with us 50% of the time and is a student at the Rotolo Middle School, and 2 dogs, 4 chickens. I spend most of my time working. I have many jobs. My primary has been a music teacher. I teach over at Music Matters and have taught there for approximately 6 years at this point. I'm a career musician, and so that's what I've spent most of my life doing. But now that I've relatively settled in Batavia, I'm looking to get involved in a community that I feel very much a part of. I grew up in Elburn, and I lived there until I was 19. And the small town feeling of that never really followed me to any of the places that I lived until I settled here in Batavia. And so my primary interest in being here is I have no experience prior to this in city government. I want to see in a place that is already as equitable as Batavia, even more fostering of a community that is supportive and embracing of people of any walk of life. Myself, I don't identify, as anything. I'm a non-binary person, and there's an entire community of people who are queer, non-binary, gay, lesbian, trans, who do live in Batavia, and I do want to see more representation of that in city government. From the outside, I also see communities of people of different socioeconomic backgrounds and situations that aren't very present in the town. And while that isn't necessarily directly related to Park District, I just want to see more of that represented in city government and be part of a push towards a Batavia that is more equitable.
Thank you. Sure.
This is not working.
Oh, okay. Technical difficulties. Gives you a chance to take a breath. Oh, that's okay. Cold and rainy, no one wants to go outside anyway.
Say, I've been timing myself all week if they need my phone.
We said? We now have an Apple iPhone convention going on.
They need the old fashioned, just the.
Perhaps we could get a 10-year-old to come up. Are we set?
Yes.
Okay. Candidate Bell, you have 90 seconds.
Good evening, Batavia. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this forum. Thank you, fellow candidates, for coming tonight. My name is Samantha Bell, Sam for short. I've been a resident of Batavia since 2015. We moved here for the same reasons many people moved to the suburbs, and more specifically Batavia, because of the great schools, the great parks, the river, space to run and play, and the great Midwestern community. The Park District is unique because it offers opportunities to people of all ages. Our daughter Finn attended the Park District preschool, New Horizons, where Mrs. Gallagher is a local treasure. Our daughter has taken numerous classes, some taught by another treasure, Kathy Friedland, and she's been in summer camps. We use the Fun Guide. We are yearly past members of the Hall Quarry Beach. We love going to the Windmill City Festival, the Celebration of Lights. We frequently walk along the river, use the parks around town, and we're hoping the weather starts to cooperate so we can ice skate at the Depot Pond this winter, fingers crossed. I own and operate a service-based business here in Batavia, and our daughter attends a Batavia public school. We are Batavians. We love being a part of this very engaged community. It brings me great pride, whether it be in this role as a commissioner or just as an active resident moving forward. I believe in investing myself in the community, public service, and giving back. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. I grew up moving every couple of years, and while there is value in that, I have loved growing into this community with my family. Being a mom and business owner,
I'm sorry, the time has elapsed.
Oh, thank you.
90 seconds, yes. Okay. Ready?
Now the pressure of making sure to not get cut off. All right, here we go.
Candidate Larson, you have 90 seconds or a minute and a half for your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Julie Larson. My husband and I have lived in downtown Batavia since 2010. My daughter attends Louise White and my son attends Rotolo Middle. I am an operations manager at Eaton Corporation, which is a company that provides a variety of power solutions on a global scale. I've worked there 17 years, and I have a team of 28 that work for me across the United States. When I'm not doing that, you can find me and my family and friends in downtown Batavia enjoying a lot of the things that they have to offer. We live walking distance from the river, so that can take you just about anywhere you want to go. Batavia is beautiful and unique. Through the years, my family has taken advantage of a lot of the things that it has to offer, the Park District specifically. We do, concerts in the park, enrichment programs, Sunsation, summer camp, a lot of those types of kids club. And those kinds of things are important to me and my family. I'm passionate about investing in our parks and recreation as it's an important part of maintaining a healthy and growing community. Without a robust park district, families like mine and yours wouldn't have these opportunities, and I'm highly motivated to get more involved to continue to support these programs we have in place to nurture the river, the nature that we have here, adults, kids, and seniors alike.
Thank you. And now it's time for your first question. You will have 1 minute to respond to the question. Okay? All right. And we'll begin with candidate Bell. How would you describe an effective park board member? Why would you fit into this description?
Well, from my understanding, the park board is a governing board. So the park district and the team at the park district brings together budgets and ideas and ways that they can enrich the park district, and the park board listens to those, discusses it, and then makes decisions. I'm a great listener. I know how to process information, not only being a mom, but being a business owner here in Batavia. That allows me to work with people that have differing opinions, and I think I would be a very effective member of the park board. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Larson, how would you describe an effective park board member, and how would you fit into this description?
I would say that, some of the same thing that candidate Bell had stated as far as there's a lot of things that you have to do as working with other organizations, right, within the park district. It's not just a standalone, but it is a board. So you work together and you work with the rest of the organizations that support Batavia to have a better community overall. You can't make decisions in a vacuum, and that's what the park district doesn't do, right? They're very good at that kind of thing, and that's something from my background in the corporate world is knowing how to do that. You have to balance partnerships with everybody you work with and for, otherwise you can't be successful. And I think I'd be great at that in this role.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, the same question. Do you need me to repeat it for you? Okay.
An effective park district board member is somebody who doesn't get caught up in any sort of bureaucracy between any of these other governing bodies that have been mentioned. Somebody who, like myself, is ultimately pragmatic at the core and keeps in mind the needs of everybody that is involved in what these decisions actually mean in context, in the town, in the city. And for me, it's really important to take a look at everything from a top-down view. I do it with everything in my life, maybe to a fault at times. But it's important to keep everything in perspective when you're making decisions, even if they're small ones. It's important to think, how does this affect each sect of our community, and how can we best serve each sect of our community?
Thank you. The next question will begin with candidate Larson. What role should the Park District play in sustainability and environmental efforts?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. Let me look through my notes. I'm just kidding. I think that the Park District, I mean, that's a big part of what they're supposed to be doing, right? Is working on, especially in Batavia, we have a lot of things that we want to keep nourish the environment. We have the Fox River. We have a lot of things that are important to us as far as, building up some of the stuff around the river that keeps the natural beauty. And that's a huge part of what the Park District does and continues to do. And along with their master plan is not to take away from any of those things. I think they're a big part of that, and they should be a big part of the decision making when it comes to the environment and the sustainability of Batavia.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what role should the Park District play in sustainability and environmental efforts?
Well, it's at the very center of everything that the Park District has to do with. Quite obviously, if we didn't have nature, if we didn't have nature to go to because it was destroyed, we wouldn't necessarily need a park district. Everything would happen inside of community centers, which is fine. But I feel like in the name Park District, we need parks. And in Batavia, being an uncommonly beautiful place and sustained very well to this point, I think it's important that the Park District keeps that at the forefront of everything that they do. I think the question in every decision should be asked, is this beneficial to the nature we have around us, to the species, the native plants, the native animals that do live here? Is this going to support that? Is this going to improve that?
Candidate Bell, the same question.
I think the Park District does an excellent job at how they interact with nature. The number of parks that we have around the city, how we have to integrate life around the river, all of the wildlife and nature that has to be sustained and kept alive and thought about when we make big decisions, such as Depot Pond, or how the possibility of the dam being removed will affect wildlife and the nature of what Batavia looks like. I think all of those things come into play, and the Park District, it's a heavy role to play in making those decisions that are going to affect wildlife, nature, sustainability, and I look forward to helping make those decisions.
Candidate Kane, this question will begin with you. It's a two-part question, and it builds on the environmental question that we just answered. What responsibility does the Park District have for the removal of invasive plant species from Batavia's parks? Should the Park District more aggressively partner with the city and other landowners to remove invasive species from properties near Batavia parks? For example, the highly invasive purple loosestrife on the island directly north of the Riverwalk.
I am not a plant biologist, so I don't have any expertise in that side of it. But from what I do understand of nature and the flow of it, is that at times there can be surges of certain species that do endanger others. And if there's anything that I've learned from anything in my life, is that balance is extremely important. And that core of balance goes through every aspect of life, down to an atomic and subatomic level. And so without getting too heady there with any of that, I think it's extremely important that with the proper experts giving us the information, it is something that we should absolutely pursue, is to make sure we help steward the land while making sure that a balance is maintained. And sometimes that does include having to curb certain species, whether it be plants or animals.
Thank you. Candidate Bell.
I'm not sure what percentage of the role of the Park District is doing right now. I do know that removing invasive species can be an important part to allow our native species to thrive and grow. I also know that sometimes the public can be upset, just like, a lot of people are upset about the clearing throughout Fabian along the river. But I think in time and with education, people will see that once you're able to clear those things out, then the native wildlife and species are able to then thrive. So I think it's important that the Park District is a part of that to help maintain and keep our ecosystems alive and well. Thank you.
Candidate Larson, your response.
Yeah, I think that, building off of what the other candidates have said, we know that the invasive can be an issue, right? Talking about taking out the stuff that's been on some of the islands or along Fabian, and some of that becomes communicating and educating the public on what's happening and why, because sometimes people just think, oh, they're clearing it all out. As far as the Park District's role on collaborating with the city on it, I would have to know more about, to Sam's point, Candidate Bell's point, of what their percentage is right now and how much they're working. But I would think as part of the parks and the Parks District is it would be part of the responsibility of them to collaborate, like I've talked about before, with the other organizations to make sure that we're doing what the community wants and educating and communicating that effectively.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, we'll begin with you. What offerings or amenities are missing from the Park District's programs or facilities?
I know that pickleball is a hot topic these days with people of all ages, maybe not all ages. I don't think infants are looking for pickleball, but I know that my parents enjoy it whenever they go around to places that offer it. I think that the Park District is working on procuring a pickleball dedicated space, but I don't think we have it just yet. Something else that they need, I'm not, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Larson.
I would say that one of the things that I would like to do as part of the Park District Board would be, I'm very involved in BYB baseball, and I would like to see more of a collaboration between the Batavia Youth Baseball and the Park District, and that we could better then maybe possibly expand the softball programs as well, and learn to maintain fields together and things like that. That's kind of one of our passion projects for mine that I would like to see the Park District get more involved with.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what offerings or amenities are missing from the Park District's programs or facilities?
I don't have any specific recommendations. I think that sounds great with pickleball. That is a very, very hot topic these days. Yeah, right. From my perspective, again, it kind of goes back to larger issues for me. I think that we could offer more programs that have sliding scale payment options or that are just more affordable for people. Because there are a lot of people in the town of Batavia that absolutely can't afford any and all of those programs. I myself and my family, my stepson, my wife and I, we can't always. And we're very lucky to live here, but we are not the only people who can't necessarily access certain programs that are as wonderful as the ones that the Batavia Park District offers.
Candidate Larson, why have so many Park District referendums failed, in your opinion?
Oh, I guess we'll just go right for it, huh? I would say that the Park District referendum's failure is probably on the part of education for educating the public on what they're really about, potentially some groups that work against it, making sure that the right facts are out to the right people. I know the Park District does a really great job of having open forums for the public as well as listening surveys and things like that. And just more of that, more of getting them involved, more social media in the right way, and working for the right reasons with the right people and connecting. And like I've mentioned, utilizing some of the other organizations as well, potentially, to make sure that the referendums that should be passed are passed.
Candidate Kane, the same question.
Well, I have gotten the vibe that referendum is a absolutely filthy, disgusting word to most people. It can be kind of a terrifying prospect because usually it means that taxes will go up, and sometimes they can go up quite a bit. A lot of times I would agree with the answer to the question from candidate to my left and say that education is a really important part of it. It's still going to be really tricky to convince people to go and vote for these referendums if it means that they're going to spend more money in the short term. But I think it's important to make part of that education very clear that these are long-term solutions for things that are going to make our city a much better place.
And Candidate Bell, Why have so many Park District referendums failed, in your opinion?
I think to piggyback off of both candidate Kane and candidate Larson, the education that I'm going to pivot that. I'm going to say that the referendums, when they go out for an advisory referendum, I don't think as many people that have a voice and want to share their voice actually do. I don't think we're getting a broad enough sample of what people really do want so that we can make a plan in order to make it pass. And then I also think that the increase of taxes is a huge bump that a lot of Batavians don't want to take. Being a taxpayer and a business owner, I know how hard it is to earn each dollar, and to think that our taxes are going to go up for something that we may want. We may have gotten all of the things we've wished for, but it can be very difficult.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what challenges do you see the Park District facing fiscally or in other areas?
I think this question is spiritually related to the last one. Anything fiscal is going to be difficult. If it involves asking for money from the public or from within the Park District itself, you're always going to end up running into issues. And as the years go on with where we're at as a country, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. And I think I'll just piggyback this right off the last question. I think anytime there is a referendum, I think anytime there is an ask for financial support from the city, from the people specifically in the city, it's always going to run into opposition. Every time, always, no matter what. There's always going to be a group of people who are not interested in spending money on something that does not directly serve them. And I think that will probably be the biggest struggle, is just finding that funding.
Candidate Bell.
Repeat it, please.
Sure. What challenges do you see the Park District facing in fiscal matters or in other areas, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think personally, I'm a very fiscally responsible, almost conservative person when it comes to matters of money. And to share what candidate Kane said, I agree that when things are being asked of the public to fund something that they may be able to benefit from, it's still difficult, and it may be a struggle for them in order to even vote for something that they want. I think there's also a large population in Batavia that won't be able to take part in some of these things. The elderly that are already upset about paying for taxes that are then going to the school district when they don't have children in the school district anymore. It can be difficult to convince people to increase their taxes for things that could benefit the community as a whole.
Candidate Larson.
So the question was around challenges the Park District has fiscally or otherwise. So I might go with the otherwise. I would say that, some of the things that are coming up with the Park District's master plan have to do with some very hot button issues like we've talked about, right? The referendum, potential land swap with some of the schools, the dam, which is always a big one with the depot pond and things like that. I would say the Park District has the next 5 to 10 years it's going to be an uphill battle. And I'm kind of excited for it, to be a part of it, to be honest, because these are not easy decisions for something like a Park District to do in a city like Batavia, while we try to balance, the beauty of this town, which we all love so much, with being a change agent towards growth and improvement for the future.
Candidate Bell, we'll begin with you. What role do you believe the Park District should play in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility in properties and programs?
Well, I think the Park District, as a community-based district, should allow and accept and invite everybody of every color, race, gender, religion, and as far as accessibility goes, that can be a hurdle because you have to change infrastructure, and there's a cost associated with that. But that should definitely be built into the budget where it can be.
Candidate Larson, what role do you believe the Park District should play in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility in properties and programs?
Well, we talk about, the Park District's role on having accessible and inclusive programs. I think that absolutely, I would say that, to candidate Kane's point earlier, as far as some of the fiscal problems that some of the Batavia residents might have with some of these, there could be some great ideas, as he was mentioning, as far as, sliding scales and things like that. As far as accessibilities of the programs, I think that there's a wide variety, like 2,000 offerings for different things. And if the community has other ideas or things that should be brought to the table that's missing because the Park District just hasn't thought of it or someone hasn't brought it, absolutely. There should be nothing that's off the table as long as it's something that makes sense for the Park District to be involved in.
Candidate Kane?
Well, I'm a little bit of a broken record on this issue. This is kind of mostly where my head is at. I'm all about inclusivity, and I'm fully aware of that, and I'm happy about it. With programs, the Park District itself is only going to be as good as the people that it supports, right? And if it only supports a certain group of people, it's not worth a whole lot, because while we do have a community that does sway towards one demographic more than others, it doesn't mean that we can just ignore the fact that we have those other people in the community as well. With programs themselves, and specifically going back to the cost of them, because of systemic issues in our country at large, if the cost is high and prohibitive, you're automatically going to be kind of getting rid of demographics that are people who are in minority groups, whether it be religious minorities, cultural minorities, gender minorities, things like that, because you're often going to find people like that in lower income situations, again, because of systemic issues in our country. So I think inclusive pricing then means inclusive Park District.
Thank you. Well, specifically, the next question deals with a demographic close to my heart. What services for seniors do you think the Park District should offer? And we'll begin with candidate Larson.
I would say that, the Park District, like what you talked about, throughout this forum, offers a lot of different programs. One of the things that I find interesting that they're working on as part of a new renovation plan is the Clark Island renovation. And I think that some of that program has now, obviously there's stuff for younger children, there's skate parks, which seniors are welcome to do, I'm sure, if they're interested. But so no skate park. Okay, I'll take it from a different angle. But there's also like outdoor exercise classes and things like that. There's a lot of facilities that we've purchased downtown that will have the opportunities for museum spaces and park spaces and the Batavia TV space. And I think that when we utilize our spaces correctly, there's going to be programs for everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Kane?
Specifically to mention, we touched on there's a lot of programs for kids. That is true. There's a lot of kids in Batavia, but it is not a city full of children. As wonderful as children are, I'm around them every single day. We do have a lot of seniors, right? And we need things that are specifically geared towards that. I know there are, like we said, some exercise programs. My wife frequently attends down at the Peg Bond Center, the senior exercise, and she absolutely loves it. I think making sure that there is spaces given that are easily accessible by the older people in our community is really, really important, because just getting to a program is a little more difficult for somebody who's in that age bracket than it is for a family to go or to drop their kids off at. So physical accessibility is a really important step there. And I think that's all. That's all I have to say.
Candidate Bell.
Can you repeat the question?
What services for seniors do you think the Park District should offer?
Well, I think the Park District already does offer quite a few things. I know that they have non-specific, it's not dedicated, but they do have pickleball, and I know seniors are loving the pickleball, along with other ages as well. I know that they're already offering yoga classes and lots of other things for seniors. But as candidate Kane just said, I think accessibility for seniors is probably a big part of that too, so that they can get there. I think a lot of times where seniors live, if they live in sort of more of a community-based living assisted place, they often have buses or shuttles that will take them to the grocery store or to the Park District classes. But possibly reaching out to more of those so that we're able to reach more seniors would allow them to then take the classes that are already offered.
Thank you. We'll begin with candidate Kane for this question. Are there partnerships the Park District should pursue to enhance programs and or other services and/or services? I'll repeat it one more time. Are there partnerships the Park District could pursue to enhance programs and/or services?
Well, I know the Park District already has to deal with the school district quite a bit. They're very intertwined. I think that bond can probably be strengthened. A lot of the school facilities are perfectly adequate facilities for a lot of the Park District programs. And I know we already do that, but I think even if that relationship exists, it should be fostered and it should be improved in all the ways that it possibly can. I think in addition to fostering that relationship, reaching out to members of the community, whether they're involved in a group, a service, a business, or just an individual, to offer more diverse programs. I think involving the community in the programs themselves, which again, I know happens at times, but getting a little more diverse with the offerings and asking the public and teaming with the public specifically to offer these.
Candidate Larson.
Can you repeat it again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there partnerships the Park District could pursue to enhance programs or services?
Yeah, I would say that, obviously, partnering with the other organizations in Batavia, Main Street and things like that. And there's a lot of good self-grown businesses and things like that in Batavia would be great to partner with. I would also like to point out that, the Park District does a lot of different programs or classes or events. And, partnering with outside independent businesses that put on some of these one night type organizations, something kind of fun, pop-up type things could be an interesting take on it. Something a little outside the box, something that we might not do, escape room type situation, or something interesting that just comes up once. Could be, oh, my friends are always saying, God, you guys are always doing something in Batavia, which we are. I mean, the Park District's a big part of that, and sky's the limit.
And Candidate Bell.
I think that, like candidate Kane said, that fostering the relationship that we have with the school district could open up a lot of avenues for us to use different spaces that would be adequate and perfectly, it would be great if we could go in there more often. I think possibly partnering with some lower income housing areas so that children in those that live in those locations would have access to more classes and camps and things like that, possibly partnering with CHIP in Batavia to find out how the Park District can then help lower income families and children and really people of all ages to be more so that they can participate with the Park District more often.
Well, this will be your last question, so you can take a deep breath and relax. And it's a great question. What are the best things about the Batavia Park District? And we'll begin with Candidate Bell.
The Park District is fantastic. All of the parks around town are wonderful. They're so well maintained. I love that when they use the playground equipment so well and for so long, but when it's still in such a great condition, they will then send it off to a country that is in need and can't afford such great equipment that we do. I think that's just a wonderful thing that many people probably don't really even know about. All of the classes, all of the fun guides, the Hall Quarry Beach, the Depot Pond, it makes this town very charming and very inviting for not only residents, but for people to come and visit. I think the Park District does an excellent job.
Candidate Larson.
I would say that, there's 2,000 small towns outside of the city of Chicago, and not all of them have what Batavia has, and the Park District is a big part of that. We do the river so well here. We utilize that, and the Park District does that, whether or not it's nurturing just the nature that it's around it, but it's also utilizing it to bring people in, and when they come, they stay. I know I did. and my family, and we're not going anywhere. And some of that, I walk that river every single day when the weather's nicer. And it never gets old. And it's beautiful. And I'd love to see the Park District's plans to continue to build up that beauty with balancing the beauty of the nature as well as making it a usable resource for the community to use as well.
And Candidate Kane, what are the best things about the Batavia Park District?
Well, Batavia has a very robust park district, and I feel like its services are used, period. Which is great, because a lot of times in towns like this that are smaller, part of this kind of urban sprawl that we're all amongst here outside of Chicago, things like this get offered, but they don't get used. And I feel like in Batavia, the reason we see such an engagement in the park district programs speaks for the type of city that Batavia is. It's filled with people who actually care, and actually care about the things that are available to them, to their families, and they care about being part of it. And that works both ways. Anybody that I've met in the Park District at this point in my candidacy shows that passion that only comes from actually being connected to the people that you're serving. And that's a very, very, very special thing, and it is very uncommon.
Thank you. Well, you will now have 1 minute for your closing statements. And we'll begin with Candidate Larson.
Well, I'd just like to say that, thank you for inviting me to come out here and speak with you guys today. This has been not quite as anxiety-ridden as I thought it was going to be, so I appreciate that. I just want to say that, I'm highly motivated to be a part of this Park District Commissioning Board, and I'm really excited for it. Batavia is a huge part of who I am, and I want to continue to be a part of that and foster the Park District and what it has to offer this community. So thank you.
And Candidate Kane?
Well, I'm going to be here for a while. My wife and I live in her childhood home, and her son will be the 5th generation of Batavian to live in that house, and we intend on staying there, and hopefully he'll want to purchase it too when we're done with it. And because I'll be here for a while, I want to be involved, and I want to be a part of the people that are here. I want to be a part of helping make the decisions that support and serve the people that are here, no matter which little organized group that you may belong to. At the end of the day, that group doesn't matter so much when everybody is being supported by something like the Park District, being offered programs and services that Batavia has that show this love and show this appreciation for the different groups of people that are here. And I really would love to just be further part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bell.
If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I believe I'd be an excellent representative of Batavia in the commissioner's role. My experience of running a business for 5 years in Batavia has allowed me to work with various groups ranging from large management companies, sole proprietorships, residents in the Fox River Valley region, low-income housing management and residents. Along with running the daily operations of the business, I'm advancing innovative changes, implementing new aspects within the business, problem and conflict resolution, budgeting, forecasting, risk management. These are some of the skills that I'd be able to bring to the position, and this is why I'm asking for your vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for being with us this evening. Our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and inspire your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Information on how and when to vote can be found on the Illinois Voter Guide or your Central Kane County League of Women Voters website or your local county election commission website. And I'll turn the podium back to Patty.
Thank you, candidates. And now we're going to take a short break so that we can have the school board candidates be seated. So relax. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still have a 4.5.
I know,
Oh, gosh,
right?
yeah.
Right?